And I am a mosaic artist. When people look at my art, I usually hear like, oh wow, it's like a I Spy mystery game. They're trying to figure out where everything came from. It's a little capture of a story that you can talk about, make your own story about. All right, let me show you what mosaic art is. It's basically pieces of broken pottery. You can get your pottery at Goodwill, your grandma's kitchen, anywhere like that. And you break it into pieces. And when you break it into pieces, you have basically a ceramic quilt. And you're gonna put all those pieces down just like you would pieces of a scrap quilt, except this is more 3D. And you fill it in with grout. Grout is the thick glue that goes in between that holds it all together. It's like the sandwiching or the binding of a quilt, but it's actually sand and paint. And when you put it all together, that holds your mosaic to one piece. So I like to think of it as broken and brought back together again. So that's basically a mosaic. I use all of my own broken pottery, and I also use recycled materials, glass, beads, belts and chains, and whatever I can find in my mosaics. What's other people's junk is my treasure. The best part of being an artist like this is that you get to take all of these little pieces of color and manipulate them and put them all together in a way that makes it very unique and all my own and something that will last a long time. When I'm building a mosaic, I preset the pieces and do not glue until the very, very end. When I'm putting the pieces down for the gluing part, I'm kind of in my brain thinking about where the grout's going to go. How I do it is I use silicone because I know this piece is going to go outside, and then I just basically pick it up and squirt it down. And in my brain, I'm keeping track of my spacing because I know that I'm going to have black grout underneath this. So that's also why I painted this black originally, because when I finished this piece, I couldn't figure out where his wing was, so I painted the wings in. And then I put my pottery on top of it. So you can see that this was an old Christmas ornament. This piece right here was a really long piece that I thought I would put on a birdhouse, but I never got around to making the birdhouse. And so then when I needed an edge piece here, I broke it into pieces. It's a real stress relief because I can just smash up all the pottery that I don't like anymore. And then I put it in baggies. And then eventually I will find a home for it in something like this. This right here is an old bowl that my son made, and I said, hey, I need that color, can I break it? And he usually doesn't care. This right here was a big, huge gnome I had in the yard, and I didn't really like it anyway, so that is now part of this. With all my pieces, the idea that I start with is not always what I finish with. This started off as a nice cactus, and then I wanted to try the grouting technique. Then at the bottom, I wound up going back to my glue technique, and then I added crushed glass, and it changed everything. So if you can see, I've got necklaces and bats and earrings and all kinds of little treasures hidden in there. And then I covered it with glitter. I always have one project I'm working on, like the big creature, and I've got one in the process. This is a slab of clay that I know I want to turn into a bridge because I want to do bridge over troubled waters. That's my theme in my head. So for me, I need to build a bridge. While I'm working on the chimera here, I'll have the bridge drying out, firing, and then I'll have to glaze it, and then I'll have to fire it again. So by the time the chimera is done, the bridge should be ready to go, and then I will put the bridge down on the mosaic table and I will work on the bridge. So what I was thinking is, these two rollers have kind of like a brick pattern to them. So what I do is I just take my roller and I just roll it into the clay. I like textures in my pottery pieces because it catches the glaze, it catches the grout, and so I have boxes of just textures. After I have my texture in, I know that this is a flat sheet, that this would be the top part of my bridge, and I'm thinking a bridge with a tree hanging down with all these extra little pieces that I had made for the chimera, but I know they're too small. These, I'll show you, are so teeny tiny that I know in a piece that size they would get lost, but I thought these looked really nice as fall leaves coming down, or these could be the pieces of a cactus, like those beautiful birds of paradise that you could see. So I could build a bird of paradise at the bottom. I don't know yet. So I know I want this to be a bridge going across my mosaic. So I'm just gonna cut this bridge like that. And then most bridges have an arch, but an arch would be boring. So I have this really fun little tulip cookie cutter. And I thought, there's my arch right there in my bridge, but if I add these little highlights and these little high points right here underneath my bridge, this would be the arch that's in a bridge that would go like this. But I like this as a cookie cutter better. And now I also have a piece that I would use for my Christmas ornaments. And I don't want everything to be even because that would be kind of boring. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to cut this part out because there aren't flowers in bridges. So that is part of the trellis that's going to hang down. Then I take all these little scrap pieces and I might build this a little higher so that you can see this arch right there. Because this is a bridge going across, like you would have a train on or something like that. And I just kind of build this because I know it's going to be a 3D piece later on. So a 3D piece on a 2D mosaic. And it can be kind of rough right now because I am going to glaze it later, and I think glaze is the best eraser ever because glaze covers up all your mistakes and covers your mistakes in glass. So every single thing you meant to do, I make a mistake, I leave it because, oh, I meant to do that. And then of course I'm gonna have to straighten this out at the bottom, but that's not really my priority right now. Eventually it'll get straight. And see, all this extra clay, I will just use that for Christmas ornaments, or I will use that for leaves because I like to put leaves in everything. And I usually have a paintbrush with me. It helps you clean up the edges. And I want to really make that arch more visible, so I can always push the clay out because it's so wet right now. And later on, if I don't like it, it just goes in the scrap pile and I start again. Glaze sticks in all these little crevices. I've also been known to throw crushed glass on top of my pieces because all that glass melts into all these little openings. Okay, so I know for sure that I don't want that nasty edge. So I will just lay this down. This is where the quilter in me goes, oh, okay. Quilter's ruler here. And again, I have more scrap to play with later. And it looks really rough right now, and I always tell my students and people who do art, art is a hot mess until you're all done. It looks like a hot mess. They're like, this is terrible, this is ugly, this won't be anything. Well, it's not right now. Right now it's an idea that I'm forming, that I know that eventually what's inside of here will help build the bridge. So I'm actually thinking in a couple of dimensions, I guess. I'm thinking about what's going to be on the top, but I'm also thinking about what's going to be underneath. This could be a really cool purple that's crushed glass underneath it that supports this really nice bridge that's going to go across. Or I could do these in green, like these are trees that are going to be in front of my bridge. I don't know yet, and I don't really need to know right now. I just know that I want to build a bridge. So I will build the bridge, and then I'll just cover it up with plastic and leave it sit for a few days, and then come back and play with it some more. And then when I feel like I'm done, I throw it in the kiln, let it fire, and then I sit and glaze it with all kinds of fun colors. And if I don't like it when the whole thing is done, I break it. Now I have part of a bridge. You can find my artwork at the Chandler Vashon Library on Riggs in Val Vista, and I have an Etsy page at Andy's Ceramic Art on Etsy. Art is really important because it brings cultures together. It brings things from the past and things in the future together, because you can look at a piece of art and wonder where that artist was in their head at that time. It gets people talking. It gets people wondering and engagement in community and in culture and in celebration, and those are all really positive things.